So I've been covering the Polish election very diligently, I would say. I've been covering all the debates. I've been covering all the discussions. I've been covering the news about it. I've live translated at least 3 debates, I think. I've live translated, after the first round of the election, the 2 conversations that Mensen had with both candidates. I believe that I've translated the Mensen little talk after Nawrocki has won the election. And I don't know, there's a lot I have to say that to properly cover this whole thing, you have to know a lot of backstory lore to Polish politics. You have to know the actors involved. You have to know the actors that were involved before. You have to know the parties that are involved, the party leaders, etc., etc. Okay, the structure of the coalition that currently rules Poland, and there's so much. So Vosh, okay, is a pretty big streamer. Like, how many subscribers does Vosh have on his main channel that is not the Vosh bit? I think, I don't know, is it 500,000? 500,000 subscribers or something? And I know that he covered this, and I know that he did not do a very good job, unfortunately. Even though I have been assured that the coverage was good, and that the streamer in question has in fact learned a lot on the subject, so that I can rest easy and the coverage will be in good hands. So there we go. That is my intro. That is my little entry to this segment about the Vosh coverage of this election. Although, you know what? Whatever. This is not gonna be just Vosh. This is gonna be my judgment upon streamers that have covered the election. That's gonna be a thing. So we're starting with Vosh. I expect everybody in the audience to be familiar. I expect everybody in the audience to right away know what's wrong, considering that I've been talking about this election extensively, okay? Extensively on the stream, with all the little nitty-gritty details. You all should have them all ingrained in your mind. No, I don't think so. Okay, the results are in. Let's go.
The heat the liberals were gonna bring. Yeah, sorry guys. By a vote of 51 to 49, it's diarrhea forever over everyone gets a puppy. 51-49. No one.
You know what? When people say that Vosh is lazy, I tend to think, oh, come on. Come on. That's like, let's not over exaggerate. Vosh lazy, come on. Oh boy. Oh my goodness.
One was getting a puppy. Yeah, I shouldn't overstate the heat the liberals were gonna bring. Everyone gets diarrhea versus like everyone has a little tummy ache but makes it home in time. And they're fine.
I have no clue. That is such a weird metaphor.
At least he's not pro-Russia. Well, it's difficult to be pro-Russia in Poland. That's a very, very, very difficult line to sell. I mean,
that's not true. Grzegorz Braun is very much pro-Russia, actually. So it appears that it's not as hard a line to sell as one might think on first glance, okay? Grzegorz Braun openly says that he wants the normalization of relations with Russia. So, also Nawrocki might not be pro-Russia, but he's also not great on Ukraine itself. He is quite confrontational when it comes to Ukraine itself, so...
He's still...
Oh yeah, there's been a response by Russia when it comes to the result of the election. I think it's... I forgot which representative of Russia said it, but he said that it doesn't really change much, and that Nawrocki as president will not necessarily mean the normalization of relations with Russia, so they don't really care.
Like right wing. But yeah, no, it's pretty difficult to be that. Yeah, that's a non-starter. That's just not happening. Poland will now be governed by Nazis for the first time since 1945. Okay? Let me just read up on how far right this guy is. 1 second.
Oh my god. Okay, that's strike one for me. Okay, I don't know how many strikes we will get on this coverage, but I'm sorry. I'm gonna read up this guy's politics right now. My god, prepare beforehand. Like, you're supposed to be talking about the results of the election. The title is "The Results Are In." The title is not "I'm now learning about the candidates for the first time." Okay, that should not be a thing. You should be on top of it. Okay, you should have been learning about the candidates when the campaign was going on, not when it's over. I feel like the priorities have been twisted.
Give me the news thing. DW, take it away.
We begin with breaking news from Poland, where a conservative challenger has won the presidential vote runoff after a knife-edge election. Official results released early on Monday showed Karol Nawrocki the winner with 50 points.
This presenter actually reads the surnames pretty well, so I will give credit where credit's due.
9% of the vote. His rival, Warsaw's Liberal Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, earned 49.1.
Isn't he the guy that fire extinguished a menorah? No, that guy was pudgy with a beard. He's not the guy who extinguished the menorah. I think
Grzegorz Braun. Okay, that's Grzegorz Braun. You should know the candidates by now, again.
he was one of the candidates?
Percent.
Oh my god, I'm sorry, that's... How do you do that? How do you make a segment on the results of the election and you don't know the candidates? And that's not even like you had like 13 candidates. I will forgive you for not knowing candidate number 12, candidate number 11 that, I don't know, got 4 or less % of the vote. But Grzegorz Braun was number 4. There were 4 people that sort of made pretty okay results. That was Trzaskowski number 1, Nawrocki number 2, Mencen number 3, and Grzegorz Braun number 4. You should at least know the first 4 candidates. Please.
But earlier exit polls were neck and neck, and both candidates declared victory at different points during the night. The post of president in Poland is largely ceremonial, but Nawrocki's victory now sets him up for...
Okay, this guy doesn't look Polish. I think the problem here, like in an ethnic or phenotypical sense, I feel like this isn't a representation of the Polish phenotype. He is.
What the hell's going on? This has 42,000 views right now. This is sitting on 42,000 views. And this is the riveting commentary that I'm getting on the results of the election. We are 2 minutes in and I'm listening to the commentary on the phenotype of the presenter of this particular news.
So I'm not saying he's not Polish. I'm just saying he doesn't look Polish. He looks a little Russian. A little. He looks...
No, he does. What?
Looks German to me. He looks like a German guy. Haters will say that Germany and Poland are right next to each other, and we've long lived in a world with, cross-border mingling. But what I'm saying is that you should be electing 6'4", balding, black-haired, hairy-knuckled Polacks, right? Like I'm
also
just saying, like, have 6'4", balding, black-haired, hairy-knuckled Polacks, right?
Since when are Polish known to be black-haired? Like, black hair in Poland? Since when is that a regular feature in the country? Like, what? What the hell? Black-haired Polak? What? Black hair is so rare in Poland, though. What do you think that's the default representative of how a Polish person looks like?
Like, I'm just saying, like, have some pride.
What is Vosh imagining Poland and Polish people to be? Like...
You know, like look at France. Okay, their president is like a sexually overactive handsome guy who was groomed by an older woman. Like, that's okay, France. You got it. I don't know.
For a showdown.
Like, I swear to God, I haven't watched Vosh for a while, but this is now the presidential election result political commentary. We are...
with the country's pro-EU government.
When the polls closed, the election was too close to call, and it seemed as if there was still everything to play for both Liberal Warsaw Mayor Raphael...
Yeah, this is supposed to be a politics stream. This is supposed to be a breakdown of the election results. What the hell is going on? What am I watching?
Trzaskowski and conservative historian Karol Nawrocki. The election evening turned into a...
So far, none of this has been, I will note, about the election results. None of this has been about the election results because there was some, I don't know, I guess looking into who the candidates actually are, but that's not analyzing the results. That's learning about who the candidates are.
Rollercoaster ride for both candidates. The first exit poll showed Trzaskowski slightly ahead, reason enough for him to claim victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, we won. I think that this phrase will become part of the Polish language and Polish...
By the way, I think that was a big mistake, okay? When it happened, when Trzaskowski announced victory, because I remember the exit poll, I've been following the exit polls. When Trzaskowski announced victory, I thought to myself, a little bit early, innit, to just announce victory like that. A little bit early. And unfortunately, I was right.
Politics on a razor's edge.
Nawrocki was undaunted and he refused to concede. 2 hours later, he got a boost when a second exit poll indicated that he was in the lead.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let me get a read on this guy's political views.
Really? Like, oh my God, like this butchers your analysis of the results of the election when you go out, when you don't know anything about the candidates and you have to first learn about what they even believe, what their politics are. Like, if you don't even know what their politics are, then I'm not even gonna hope that you know what their programs were for the election. Like what sort of platform they ran on, what sort of promises they've made, anything. Because if you knew those things, then you would know what their politics were. This is very, very disappointing, okay?
Nawrocki accused the ruling coalition of sexualizing children. Political views. Nawrocki accused the ruling coalition of sexualizing children, demonstratively throwing a copy of the cover of Genderqueer, a memoir, into a paper shredder. Wow. Borrowing our talking points, okay. Le wokizm. Referendum against Tusk. Participated in a 70 v 70 football hooligans fight. Okay. He called the fights noble battles.
Actually, he didn't just call it noble battles. He called it noble masculine combat. Like the full version of what he said, the correct, like the accurate version of what he says sounds a lot more ridiculous. Hooligan fights between football fans is noble masculine combat.
Allegations of him worked as a bodyguard for prostitutes in a 5-star Grand Hotel in Sopot in his youth.
I don't know. This is incorrect, by the way. The DW, I don't know where Vosh is reading this from, but the allegation isn't that he was a bodyguard for prostitutes, okay? The allegation is that he was pimping out prostitutes to hotel guests while working as a guard in the hotel, okay? That's a difference. He wasn't working as a guard for prostitutes.
Using snooze while on air during a presidential debate, raising allegations of his heavy nicotine addiction. This is all light stuff. He got into fights, was a bodyguard for prostitutes, and...
Well, he wasn't. I have no clue where Vosh has taken this from, but he was working as a guard for the hotel, and as a guard for the hotel, he brought in prostitutes for the guests at the hotel.
Drugs? Okay. I don't know.
That's the thing that he did. He wasn't just a guard for prostitutes. He wasn't a guard for prostitutes at all. My goodness.
Naroki is... Oh, sorry. Naroxi.
Nawrocki.
Is it... Where's the S? Because the DW commentator said Naroxi, but...
No, he didn't. He didn't say Nawrocki. Nawrocki.
See an S anywhere in the name.
Oh my god. Also learn how to pronounce the names and surnames before coverage, okay? That's my advice number 2.
I would just read it as Naroki. The C...
Yeah, because I have no clue why you would read it like this, by the way. I have no clue why you would just assume that the pronunciation is like in English, but... whatever. Like... if you're gonna spend over half of your analysis of the election results on figuring out who the candidates are to begin with and pronunciation of the names, then I don't know what sort of... Okay, the title should not have been "The Results Are In." The title should have been "Learning About Polish Candidates." Isn't Vosh of Polish origin? Yes, Vosh is partially of Polish origin and partially of Irish origin.
He has a TS?
Vosh's surname is not Irish. Vosh's surname is actually Polish, so... Kociński. Just so you know.
Narowski.
Nawrocki.
In Nav? Okay, is it the W that's V? So Naroki turns into Nawrocki? Interesting.
More or less. Okay, I'll give it a pass. He should not be doing this on stream. This is not a Polish lesson segment. This is a "The Results Are In" segment, okay? This is supposed to be about the result of the Polish presidential election. We are 5 minutes in and almost 5 minutes in, and almost nothing has been about the results of the election.
Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. Nawrocki. Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind.
Actually, it's Nawrocki, not Nawrocki. There's a very big difference between the sound S and the sound T. Okay? T. Okay? He didn't even watch enough videos to know how to pronounce it.
Close enough. I feel like that was pretty close.
Pretty close, but, you know.
Close enough. I'll take it, I guess. Okay. Nawrocki is considered a nonpartisan, but of conservative outlook. He describes himself as a representative of the broadly defined patriotic camp. And
also, he very much was not a nonpartisan. He was very much endorsed by the Law and Justice Party. He is very much a Law and Justice president-elect.
Is that he has never belonged to a political party, blah, blah, blah. He considers himself a civic candidate that will end the Polish War.
He will not. He will very much be a stooge for the Law and Justice Party. He will not end the Polish War. He will not end the division of Poland into Poland A and Poland B. That is not happening.
Okay. He declared that he is ready to support any Polish government that demands the exhumation of Polish victims in Volhynia. Were those the ones the Nazis executed? Okay, hold on. Wait. Looks like we're going to be here for a second.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and also he is just now reading about the program of this guy, of Nawrocki, that he wants the resolution to the Volhynia massacre. And of course he does not know what the Volhynia massacre is. He thought that the Volhynia massacre was done by the Nazis.
Massacre of Poles in Volhynia and Eastern Galicia. Volhynia is Ukraine.
This has nothing to do with the analysis of the results of the election, by the way. Once again.
Fascists? It's a whole thing? Okay, I think I've heard of this. Peak of the massacres took place in 1943. Killings were exceptionally brutal. Okay, up to 100,000.
This is not good.
Deaths. So, is this like a dog whistle that I don't understand? Because if he's concerned about the Polish victims in Volhynia, wouldn't that mean that he's upset that they were killed by Nazis? It's an anti-Ukraine dog whistle.
What the fuck? No, it's not. It's not a dog whistle, okay? As much as I hate Nawrocki, the Volhynia thing is not a dog whistle, okay? All politicians in Poland, from the left to the right, actually care about this issue. So I guess if this is a dog whistle, then every single politician in Poland is a dog whistler. This is so stupid. Yeah, of course. Yes, it's a dog whistle. The counter-candidate Trzaskowski also at some point said that this issue has to be resolved.
But at the time, the
dog whistle?
The Ukrainians were with the Soviets who were with the Nazis.
What the fuck is this? I'm sorry. Like, read up on this stuff before going on stream to analyze the election results for Poland. What the hell is this? And also, why do you assume that it has to be a dog whistle of some sort? Why? Like, I'm sorry. This is a very simple case of Polish people and Ukrainian people have a complicated history, and there's tension over that complicated history, okay? There's no dog whistling involved here. Come on. Jesus Christ Almighty. The only thing that I can say about that I can nitpick, well, it's not really a nitpick. Nawrocki keeps talking about needing to resolve history, but Ukraine has already agreed to the exhumation of the victims of the Volhynia massacre, and the process has already started. Okay, so I don't know what to think of it, of bringing up that argument, even though the thing has been agreed upon. I guess it's just some way to a shout out to voters that don't know that it has already started.
It was committed by Banderites. They were killed by Ukrainian Nazis.
Okay, Bandera. The UPA was not Ukrainian Nazis. Like, let's be specific. Let's be accurate with these things, okay? Let's be accurate with these terms. Highly difficult to finish the process in the middle. Oh, don't make me start. Don't make me start my rant about the fact that the tense historical animosities between Ukraine and Poland should not be taken care of in the middle of the biggest war since World War II, okay? Don't even get me started on the fact that I'm actually annoyed that this is happening now. And that so many precious excavators are being used to unearth bodies instead of building stuff that could save lives now. It's just... Okay, I said it actually. I said not to get me started, and then I just got started, but...
If I recall correctly, this is basically how you follow the Russian dogma that the current Ukraine regime is Nazi. Okay, so the reason why this is a bit of a dog whistle is...
It's not! It's not a dog whistle at all! Come on! What the fuck? Why do you have to reverse? Why do you have to start with the thesis that it's a dog whistle and then reverse engineer a reason why it has to be a dog whistle? It makes no sense, okay? You don't have to start with the premise that it's a dog whistle and then work your way back ways to demonstrate it. Oh my god, my chair almost gave up on me.
Because rather than him being broadly concerned about Poles who were killed by Nazis, of which there were many, it's more like, let's focus on these Poles that were killed by a Ukrainian detachment of the SS, because then we...
Okay, the UPA, okay? The UPA was not a Ukrainian detachment of the SS. Like, this is... This is horrible. This is the worst. This is the worst coverage of the result of the election ever. Okay? And we're not even... We are 6 minutes 40 seconds in, and we're not even at the part where the analysis of the election results happen. No, we're figuring out who the candidates are, and we are figuring out what the Volhynia massacre was, which was a military branch of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. They had nothing to do with the Nazis. They were not a branch of the SS. Definitely not. How do you... Why? Why would you do this? Okay, and the reason why Nawrocki and some other politicians talk specifically about this, because this is a specific thing between Ukraine and Poland. It's not a dog whistle.
We make it like a national thing against Ukraine, rather than it being like broadly the Nazis invaded us, because like...
No! And also Law and Justice also harps around about the you know, what's it called, reparations from Germany. So that's not even true either.
The Nazis killed millions of Polish people. Okay.
This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. This is very sad.
Okay.
This is actually very bad. And probably was done to the tune of 8,000 live viewers or something. This is not good. Okay? Not good at all. What the hell is going on? Oh my goodness.
Interesting. Carried out in German-occupied Poland by the Ukrainian Insurgent Army. Okay, and the Ukrainian Insurgent Army was a Ukrainian nationalist... Oh yeah, this is the Banderite stuff, right? Ukrainian nationalist partisan formation founded by the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. They launched guerrilla warfare against Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, and both the Polish underground state and Polish communists. Okay, so they fought everyone. They carried out massacres of Poles in Volhynia. Okay, we saw that. Which are
Fuck me.
recognized by Poland as a genocide. Certainly seems like that. Okay, so it's they weren't explicitly working with the Nazis. These were...
You should not be learning this stuff on your analysis of the Polish election.
The Ukrainian nationalists, and this happened back, dude. This area was a shit show, man. Like it's not just the Nazis and the Soviets. Like that's what everyone talks about, but it's like there's a lot of stuff going on over here. They aligned with the Nazis in '44. Did they? So they aligned with the Nazis.
What the? Yeah, I've been informed. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's all good. I did brilliant coverage of the presidential election. My God.
After they committed that massacre, they fought against the Germans in Volhynia and Polesia, fought against the Polish resistance, massacre, killed a bunch of civilians. In 1944, as the German army was retreating, the UPA started to attack its rear and seize the equipment. At the end of 1944, the UPA aligned itself with Nazi Germany? Wait, but that's the UPA. This is the UIA.
Oh my God.
Oh no, okay, abbreviated UPA because languages aren't all the same. Okay. UPA characters. UPA.
I feel like his chat is just making shit up, or maybe the chat is.
Germany, ceasing, etc. Why would you align yourself with Nazi Germany after they start retreating? Because you don't want the Soviets to take your position? Ceasing its attacks on Wehrmacht position and attacking the Soviets in exchange for military aid. Okay. What did you think the end game was here, man? Okay, Jesus Christ. They led armed resistance against the Soviets till 1949. Jesus Christ. No wonder so many people don't like Ukraine.
What is this comment supposed to mean? What the hell is this supposed to mean? No wonder so many people don't like Ukraine. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? This is just... I'm not even... I don't even know where to go with this. What about the Soviet Ukraine? What about Soviet Ukraine that existed at the time? No comment.
Jesus Christ. Opportunistic motherfucker. Okay. So he is saying that he is particularly concerned about the victims of massacres committed by Ukrainian nationalists who were fighting against everyone at some point or another. They fought against the Nazis, they fought against the Soviets, they slaughtered Poles. Okay, gotcha. Okay, now we know. Sorry, just a little... I'm sure this is of great importance in you know, Polish political discourse, so I was curious. Ironically, the Nazis ended up putting Bandera in a death camp.
No, they didn't. Okay, the Nazis did not put Bandera in a death camp. He was put in a camp that was in an old residence. Okay, Bandera survived the war, lived through the war, and died in Germany after the war. He was not put in a death camp. So please stop. Okay, this is easily. You can just Google. Stepan Bandera, and you'll know that he did not die in some death camp.
You know, he got a little silly with it. I'm not going to cry over him. Euronews describes the political alignment of Navrosky's campaign as patriotic, pro-Christian, pro-NATO, and favorable to President Donald Trump. Okay, right, gotcha. Yes, I remember him meeting with Trump recently. FYI, Ukraine already agreed to those demands, and exhumations have been underway for 2 years so far. Okay. Social issues. A Roman Catholic with culturally conservative views accused the ruling...
I just can't get over the fact that he is now just reading about the candidate, who he is, what his beliefs are, and he is supposed to be analyzing the results of the election in this thing. We're 10 minutes in from 27 minutes. No... talking about the results of the election, the aftermath of the election, what the results of the election mean for Europe, for Ukraine, for the relationship with the United States. There's a lot to talk about here. You know, even if there's a ton to talk about when you already know all the things that Vosh is just now learning about in here. And the video is just 27 minutes.
Relation LGBT groups of sexual...
Is he going to be talking about the results of the election like at all?
Children, right, we read that. Close ties with the Catholic Church in Poland, Polish government, broad criminalization of abortion, opposition to the legalization of same-sex marriage, civil unions are extending legal rights to people in same-sex relationships, citing Catholic sexual ethics. Geopolitically, he supports further strengthening Polish ties to the U.S.
Hello, Conrad. This is a very bad coverage. Very bad.
And
well,
NATO.
it's not even a coverage. It's not even a coverage of the results. It's just learning about the candidate right now.
So, while opposing European integration. Okay. So, it seems like he's a Catholic conservative. It doesn't seem like he's a Nazi.
Great. Amazing. Thank you for this input. This really adds a lot to the, once again, analysis of the results of the election. We now know that Nawrocki is in fact not a Nazi. Thank you.
Because a Nazi would likely not be pro-NATO, would be my guess. Madero was a hero, did nothing wrong. Anyone who kills Russians has to be the good guys. Nice bait. Excellent bait, my lord. My comrade. Declared himself an opponent of the EU's migration policy and announced his intention to terminate the EU's migration pact. Okay. Defend traditional social values, stated his strong opposition to the removal of crosses from state buildings. He holds anti-communist views, criticized the Polish education system. He's responsible for removing several Red Army monuments in Poland, considered a criminal act by Russia, which put him on its national wanted list. Okay, that's...
Oh yeah, he's being targeted by Russia. And of course, I have nothing against removing those Soviet statues. even though they, technically speaking, have certain historical value. So I guess you can stash them away in some building or whatever.
That's probably fine. I can understand why you would want to take down Red Army monuments in Poland.
This guy reminds me of Asmongold when it comes to doing research. Oh snap! Oh burn! Oh no! Well, I am sorry to say. I am sorry to say that. Well, I'm not. Okay, I'm not sorry to say. You're right. Okay, this is embarrassing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you're supposed to know these things. Again, the title of the video is "The Results Are In." Okay, if you're jumping in to talk about the results of an election, you're supposed to, at the very least, this is not a high bar. It's not some impossible task to meet. Know who the candidates are, know what their beliefs are, know and their politics, and know a little bit of history. You know, if there's a historical thing that is part of a very big part of the campaign that all the politicians all over the political spectrum are talking about, then learn about it a bit off stream, not on stream, okay? Because then, otherwise, you'll embarrass yourself by saying that Nawrocki talking about wanting to take care of historical matters is a dog whistle, which it's not, okay? I'm not a fan of Nawrocki, but not a dog whistle. God.
I think that's like an understandable. I don't consider that an anti-communist thing at all. You know, I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't really give a shit if Russia considers that a criminal act. He's a strong supporter of armaments and social investment programs, pledged to abolish all overtime labor tax, focus on large economic investments, wants big infrastructure projects, supports welfare programs, opposes adopting the euro as Polish.
I cannot believe that this has 43,000 views, okay? This brings me towards, it says, my great-grandfathers died in the Volhynia massacre. Oh, interesting. Well, I'm sorry for your loss.
Let's see. Okay, yeah, okay, so, I mean, it honestly seems like cultural conservatism and nationalism are the two big through lines here. This doesn't seem like...
Yeah, he's a right-winger, okay? He's a right-wing candidate. We should not be learning about this now.
Exceptionally bad. It's not good, but like in the scale of things, given the direction the country has taken, or I guess like the world has taken, I don't know. My standards for what is bad have shifted a little bit lately, so this could be a lot worse, I think. Poland will never adopt the euro, though they hate it. Well, like, unironically, with the reading that I've done on monetary policy, I'm starting to feel a little bit anti-euro myself, because it sucks if you are not Germany.
You should have done a little bit of reading on this, okay? You should have done a little bit of reading on this.
You're reliant on the euro, but you don't really control the monetary policy of the euro. Like, the euro itself is good, but not having a centralized fiscal or monetary policy on the euro kind of means that if you're not Germany, like if you're a country like Greece, for example, you're
This is very, very painful. Okay, this is very, very, very painful analysis. And I was promised that Vosh has delivered a very nice and summary of the results of the election.
Kind of at the whims of...
I've been lied
like,
to.
Different countries have different economies, and they might be like in need of different monetary policy to kind of balance things out. And if everything's centralized under one currency, you kind of have like the I don't know. Imagine if every country in both North and South America, if all of the Americas...
You have deceived me, Vosh. And why are you dedicating so much time about discussing the euro?
Use the US dollar. The US dollar is pretty strong, so that's cool. But, like, imagine being in, like, I don't know, Ecuador or something, or Honduras or whatever, and, like, your economy is totaled, and, like, what are you going to do? You can't print more. We print the currency, right? You can't adjust monetary policy because we do the monetary policy, right? You don't have much control over it, basically. It'd be great for us because then a bunch of countries would need our dollar. That would increase reliance on it, which would increase its, like, relative value. Okay, yeah. Basically what I'm saying is that you need to, like, you need to shit or get off the pot with the euro, I think. You need to, like, centralize monetary policy or allow for independent currencies, I think. Ecuador...
I mean, there are countries in the European Union that have independent currencies. Poland is one of them.
Uses USD Lamau. Yeah, and how are they doing? Also, Poland having a cheaper currency than the euro massively helped it keep domestic prices down and boosted its exports. It's been great for them. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, because you have issues.
It helps me. By the way, speaking of weak currency and how it helps me, if you like what I do, if you like me covering stuff like that, then consider joining lucyhazet.org/live and subscribing or donating.
Doesn't, like, respect the needs of every country equally, of course. Because
I'm not gonna complain. I'm not gonna complain. I mostly make money in dollars, so it works out for me just fine.
Balance out so many things. It's complicated. It's complicated. Euro dollars for the win. Well, the euro dollar is just a US dollar that, like, Londoner wiped their dick on. It's complicated. Parentheses, I don't really understand it. He supports nuclear energy. He criticized the European Green Deal, stating that while he supports environmental protection, he opposes...
No, he doesn't. What are his environmental protection policies? What are they exactly? No, he doesn't. He doesn't care about environmental protection.
Climate madness at the expense of Polish homes, workers, and entrepreneurs. Well, that's better than what we've got right now. Ensure food security, respects the sovereignty of the Polish countryside, and has described rural Poland as the mainstay of Polish culture, traditions, and social values. Rural light seething, opposes the federalization of the European Union.
I mean, he won, so no one's seething, okay? I don't think this is a good moment to say that people from the rural areas are seething if they voted for him and he won.
Voski is opposed to Ukrainian membership in NATO or the EU until Ukraine accepts responsibility for the genocide of Poles in Volhynia. Haven't they? Does Ukraine deny that Ukrainian nationalists committed the genocide? Kinda, yeah, they do. That's odd. It's convenient to pretend they didn't. It's a complicated thing in Ukraine. Okay. I assumed that they would have worked that out. To be fair, nobody except Poland considers it a genocide. I mean, didn't it say like 100,000 civilians? I mean, you could at least go by like massacre. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. UPS actions resulted up to 100,000 Polish deaths. The killings were exceptionally brutal. Most of the victims were women and children. I don't know. It seems like a look at the classification. I'm not really interested in the classification. If it's called a genocide or a massacre, whatever. I mean, you know, just it seems bad is all I'm saying. He demands World War II reparations from Germany for material losses and war crimes committed in...
Also, law and justice. Apologies, my dog just went to town. The Green New Deal was implemented by Law and Justice, by the way. In fact, at first, the Law and Justice Party boasted that the Green New Deal was the creation of the Law and Justice Party. So, make of that what you will. Oh no, there are definitely documents in Polish when it comes to it. It's called Zielony Ład. There are documents on it in Polish, yes. There are actually many documents in Polish on it.
By Poland, okay. Opposes the Russian Federation. He was criticized in Israel for downplaying the role of Poles in the Holocaust.
Yeah, there is a lot of misinformation, and I've been to a few farmer protests. I've covered the farmer protests, or as they call themselves, the peasants. And there's been a lot of craziness, okay? There has been a lot of anti-Semitism, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories. It's crazy. It's insane. Very excited for the conversation between Michael Burns and Brooks. What? No, I don't know anything about this. Tell me more.
Don't really care what Israel criticizes, to be honest. I don't trust them as good moral vectors, I suppose.
Also, it's not just Israel.
Criticizes, to be honest. Role of Poles in the Holocaust.
Also, this was not just Israel's criticism. It was the Law and Justice Party censoring historians, persecuting historians, and actually putting out a very twisted image of what role Poland had in the Holocaust. And I'm sorry to say, due to Polish participation, or rather cooperation, about 200,000 Jewish people were killed directly due to Polish cooperation. So it's not just some made-up thing by Israel, by any means.
I don't really care what Israel criticizes, to be honest. I don't trust them as good moral vectors, I suppose.
But you would need to know things about this topic too. And this has nothing to do with the results of the election again, so I have no clue.
Is a controversial figure in Ukraine. The problem is that Bandera is obviously bad and evil. Like, just because you're a big... This is like a Christopher Columbus thing.
And yes, he is so uninformed that it's painful. It is painful that he is now learning about the presidential candidates as he is supposed to be analyzing the results that are in. 16 minutes in, and no discussion on the results of the election has been made yet. No discussion on the subject of the video has been done yet.
Just because a figure is big in your national history doesn't mean that he's a good guy and should be celebrated as such. Like, he was really, really bad. You know, it's, I'm not really, I guess, like, yeah, you can do this to the Founding Fathers too, to an extent, but, like, I'm not gonna, you know, defend them, certainly.
Gentlemen, yes, we are going to win. We are going to win tonight.
The presidential runoff pitted Trzaskowski, a liberal pro-EU politician, against Nawrocki, a conservative historian backed by the right-wing Law and Justice.
Like, you're supposed to get in and know all these things and just analyze the results. That is what you're supposed to be doing. Not this, whatever this is.
Party and aligned with US conservatives, including President Donald Trump. The outcome to determine whether Poland takes a more nationalist path.
Is there a lore reason as to why Polish nationalists are cucks to Russia? Have you been paying attention at all? Every single thing we've learned about this guy has demonstrated the opposite. Like, literally, you couldn't be further from correct on this point.
Or pivots decisively toward liberal democratic norms. Outgoing President Andrzej Duda had publicly backed Nawrocki. His victory means conservatives will continue to have significant influence over whether Prime Minister Donald Tusk...
Also, Andrzej Duda, as bad as he was, Andrzej Duda is better on Ukraine than Nawrocki. And even Andrzej Duda has said that he expresses hope that Nawrocki will change his mind on the topic of Ukraine joining NATO.
Centrist government can fulfill its agenda because the president has the power to veto laws.
Let's get more now from DW's Alex.
Oh, and there is a very important caveat that you have to add when discussing the power of the veto of the president, is that the Polish parliament lacks the necessary majority. And by the parliament, I mean the ruling coalition lacks the necessary majority in the parliament to overrule the presidential veto, which is significant when discussing this topic.
Alexandra von Naumann, who is reporting for us from the Polish capital, Warsaw. Alexandra, the Polish Electoral Commission declared early this morning that the conservative candidate Nawrocki has won the presidential election. What more can you tell us about this very tight race?
Well, we have to say that it's...
Navrosky says he opposes Ukraine NATO accession. Everyone does. NATO was...
That's bullshit. No, that's not true. Not everyone does. See, this is just ignorance. Andrzej Duda, who's the president, you know, Andrzej Duda, the predecessor of Nawrocki, is pro-NATO for Ukraine and has repeated it time and time and time. There was a meeting recently for countries in the region, and they all sort of reinforced the idea that Ukraine needs to join NATO. Okay? And no, Vosh is incorrect on this. No, everybody's not anti-Ukraine joining NATO, especially countries in this region are pro-Ukraine joining NATO. There's a vote of confidence. There's going to be a vote of confidence thing. Not sure what it's called in English in the week. Yeah, I know. Tusk has called for a vote of confidence for his government.
Or Ukraine was never eligible to join NATO because they have an ongoing territorial dispute. Nobody is arguing, literally nobody is arguing that Ukraine should join NATO now. It's not...
Yeah, that's... Okay, this is another example of Vosh just not doing his due diligence when it comes to this, because Nawrocki is not saying Ukraine should not join NATO now that there's a war and that there are disputes. Nawrocki is saying Ukraine should not join NATO, not now, not ever. And that is a big difference, okay? Nawrocki is saying Ukraine should never be in NATO. Never, ever. Not now. Oh, God.
Possible. It would violate the NATO acceptance charter. You know?
Jesus Christ almighty.
No, it's like it's just the idea that the libs or whatever have wanted them to join NATO immediately, thus instantly triggering nuclear war between Russia and NATO, is just not true. It's a straw man.
Very narrow victory for Karol Nawrocki, which is no surprise at all, because the race was a close one from the beginning, and it was clear that either of the candidates had a good chance of winning. And I was quite...
18 minutes in, we have not seen any analysis of the results of the election. 18 minutes in.
Surprised to see Nawrocki's opponent, the liberal candidate Rafał Trzaskowski, yesterday evening when the first exit poll was published, showing him with a slight ahead of his opponent. He took to the stage, he declared victory, and I really thought this is too early, and we then have seen a night of emotions on both sides after what has been described as a very brutal and polarizing campaign here in Poland.
Also, the record high voting turnout.
Tell us a bit more about Karol Nawrocki. Who is he, and what is his agenda going to be?
What's his gender going to be? Well, you'd have to ask him directly. Not a huge amount of charisma here. That's fine.
Yeah, he said agenda. He didn't say gender. Come on. Skip the jokes. You're wasted. You have wasted enough time of this video that is supposed to be about the election results on anything but. The jokes are not landing.
No hate to either of them. Somebody said this random tweet, which is not in my language, explains why the liberal lost. The problem being, of course, that I just have to rely on Google Translate, which is not... I've been reading since yesterday about how Rafael lost the match because of my puke bowl, so let's explain it. I don't want to read Google Translate text, to be honest with you. That's not my shit. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how things go. Can I get a video on this? Sure, AP.
How embarrassing. So, I guess 7 minutes will be about the election result analysis. We'll see. We'll see how much info Vosh an analysis Vosh is going to be able to pack into these 7 minutes.
Wygrał mój kandydat, po prostu. Cieszę się z tego, że Polska...
Does your family know any Polish? Guys, I'm American. What do you...
Oh, never mind. Never mind. It's going to be a stun lock about Vosh's Polish roots and how he's American and doesn't speak any Polish. Great. That is what I needed. Definitely. That is what I crave.
The whole point of America is that it's a melting pot. What do you go up to every person with German, Polish, Irish, Italian ancestry in America? You'd be going up to every American. No white American's been here for more than 200 years. Why the f would I know Polish?
Zostanie Polską, nie zostanie sprzedana po prostu.
No nie podobają się, co ja mam powiedzieć, no. Raczej nie.
Hell yeah,
Przewidywałem, że będzie inaczej.
This guy looks like how a gamer would be represented in the media in like 1985.
Thank you. That's really needed to this insight into the election results.
He'd have a bunch of quarters up on the screen, you know?
Więc nie podobają się.
The results of Poland's election show that Poland remains a deeply divided country. Although the electoral turnout was highest ever in history
Hamas kultury i nauki.
of presidential elections, Mr. Nawrocki's margin of victory is very small, which
Okay, here. Good video by TLDR. Yeah, give me some info.
This video is brought to you by Henson Shaving.
Oh my god. Roughly 6 minutes to analyze the results of the election.
Nawrocki. Going into the election, the big question was whether Tusk, Trzaskowski's party boss, who was elected...
All this shit you've been reading so far is the right-wing perspective trying to launder him. He's way worse. I mean, we were reading the Wikipedia article. Are you suggesting the Wikipedia article is biased in his favor? Would you like to provide any additional information?
Elected about 18 months ago, can get...
I don't know, you should have researched this off stream, on your own time.
Reform agenda off the ground after nearly 2 years of obstructionism by President Andrzej Duda, a Law and Justice ally. While most polls suggested a slight lead for Trzaskowski, the final results were incredibly close, and unfortunately for Tusk, Nawrocki eked out a victory with 50.89% of the vote, narrowly defeating Trzaskowski on 49.11%. So in this video, we're going to look at Poland's presidential election results and why it's bad news for both Tusk and the EU.
Okay, so 5 minutes for Vosh to, out of 27 minutes of a video, to get into it, give us his perspective, give us his analysis of the results. Let's go. Also, one moment, I have to calm my dog down. Last 5 minutes for Vosh to deliver us stunning analysis of what happened and what the consequences could be. No matter how angry she is with the content, she's got only love for her dog. True. He needed to get some food. My god. Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes to get some analysis in. Make it count. Make it count. Please, for the love of God. I don't see Sakatanuki there. Actually, interestingly enough, the last time I've seen Sakatanuki was on Riverboat Jack's stream, not Vosh's. And Sakatanuki donated to Riverboat Jack. Listen, Malaki, your task is to pull Sakatanuki to here, okay? We need Sakatanuki over here, alright? Oh my god. Poor Fido, I have to take him to the vet. Okay. I've gotten distracted enough. Oh yeah, Vosh has a lot of white names. Not good, not good. Yeah, hell yeah, disappointing segment, okay? The title of the video is so far a complete lie.
It's true, I don't read.
I've noticed. This is becoming painfully apparent to me that you don't.
If you're a TLDR fan and want to support the channel, then consider picking up a copy of our magazine.
Okay.
Too Long helps to fund all of our journalism and allows us to make free videos for YouTube like this one. You can.
No, I respect that. I think that's quite nice, you know? So you have like the shorts on the videos, but the long bits in the magazine. I think that's really cool. Nice, I miss magazines. Yeah.
Learn more and buy a copy by clicking the link in the description. First, let's start with a bit of context. For decades, Polish politics has been a tug-of-war between two parties, the nationalist right-wing Law and Justice Party, or PIS, and the centrist Civic Platform Party. Between 2005 and 2007, Law and Justice led its first government, but its rule was cut short by a corruption scandal involving their junior coalition partner, paving the way for early elections. These were decisively won by Donald Tusk, who served as Prime Minister between 2007 and 2014, until he resigned to serve as President of the European Council. However, Civic Platform failed to produce a strong candidate to replace Tusk, and was subsequently beaten by Law and Justice in the 2015 election, who continued to...
Let me go back to magazines. The electronics are pretty meh. I think the nice thing about magazines is that there's more gatekeeping for entry. A lot of media is made for the everyman now to maximize ad
I have
revenue.
nothing to add here. I have nothing to add here. I'm not here for this. I'm not here for the merits of magazines, of paper, on reading things on paper versus reading things on a screen. I'm here for the results that are in.
Or whatever, like if you go on YouTube, because you need to get a lot of people to watch your shit to make YouTubing like even remotely profitable, especially if you have multiple people working on the channel. You have to like really spread out the appeal there. Whereas with like a niche magazine, you can legitimately have like a few hundred readers and actually make that like a worthwhile thing. I know this isn't like a politics thing specifically or whatever, but there are like little books and magazine and pamphlets on specific things pertaining to fashion that have more information and are a better guide and are better curated than anything on YouTube. And they've been around for decades and they're still accessible. And it's because they were...
Yes, that is really what I need. That is definitely what I need. The discussion on little pamphlets on fashion that are the best. Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. I'm gonna hunt for those right after this.
Made by and for like elite hobbyists, people who really know about the shit and want to know a lot, rather than like, you know, here's my brand identity on the channel.
Yeah, so 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left to talk about the results of the presidential election. 3 minutes left.
Here's my delivery of the information. Do you know what the tabby boot is or whatever? Like you can get way more info. It's just, you know, it's nice to diversify where you get your info from.
Govern for two consecutive terms. According to many analysts and commentators, during these two terms, the rule of law in Poland has severely deteriorated under PIS's rule, and the party's tenure was plagued by corruption allegations. For instance, in 2019, a former Speaker of Poland's lower parliamentary house resigned over accusations he took more than 100 personal flights on a government jet. A former finance minister was accused of having...
Fuck. I think I'm content stealing. Look, is the gist of this just going to be that...
2 minutes. 2 minutes to discuss the Polish election results. What the hell is he gonna do in 2 minutes? What is he supposed to say on the results in 2 minutes? Like seriously.
That the reason the liberal guy lost is because nobody in Poland thinks he's going to fix anything?
He talked about fashion longer than he talked about the Polish election results. And in particular, he talked about the fashion pamphlets more than he talked about the results. What an embarrassment.
Like, just accusations of incompetence, corruption, and just dicklessness abound. Nah, he went to the right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of implied, I guess. Vosh, read this. You think I'm going to read something that you typed just because you opened it with Vosh, read this? You presumptuous piece of shit. Are you kidding me? If you want me to read something, you say my name. That highlights it in blue for me. You arrogant son of a bitch. Hey, read this one especially. Do you have any idea what kind of precedent that would set? Sorry? No, you're not. This is the Canada...
That was necessary for the segment, absolutely.
An event for Poland.
I'm starting to think that a lot of streamer viewers have a humiliation fetish. Just an aside.
Polish Constitutional Tribunal crisis has been an ongoing political conflict in Poland starting the second half of 2015 over the appointment of 5 of the 15 judges of the Constitutional Tribunal. Is this their Supreme Court? Constitutional Court, yeah, okay. Judicial body, da-da-da, okay. He lost...
Bro needs a TLDR for a TLDR video.
It's partially due to the familiar death of liberalism. Libs can't find the new narrative. Yeah. No one can decide who's actually a member of the court. That seems like an issue. Wait, this seems like a nightmare. The president of the Constitutional Tribunal dictated the new 5 judges should not hear cases till the situation was settled. In order to combat this, the PIS party passed a series of laws through the Sejm and Senate, which compelled the Constitutional Tribunal to allow the judges to hear new cases. The new legislation was signed into law on the 28th of December 2016. The court ruled the 5 new judges...
Yeah, we're not gonna be discussing the results of the 2025 Polish election. We're going to be discussing the changes in the judicial branch in Poland in 2019. Brilliant.
Elected by the 8th Sejm were legally appointed, but in March 2016 ruled the new legislation...
Oh, we're rolling back to 2016. Sorry.
...unconstitutional. The latter ruling was ignored by the Polish government, which considered the ruling advisory. Oh, God. Oh my God, that's insane. Are you kidding me? This was 10 years ago. They haven't resolved it since?
Less than a minute. Less than a minute. And I'm going to quiz you. Okay, I'm gonna quiz you on something.
Because the president was blocking it, it'd be solved now if the liberal won. Guess you'll have this for a while more. The voters don't care about this. Voters don't care about anything unless you make them care about it. And liberals can't make people care about things. Clearly, as evidenced by the election. Jesus. You ever wonder how...
What do you mean as evidenced by the election? The difference was a little bit over 1%. It was a very, very close race.
In the EU. I don't know how Hungary is in the EU, okay? Poland, I understand. I have no idea why Hungary is in the EU.
14 seconds left.
EU. Okay. Well, good luck with that nightmare.
Oh, never mind. It's over. Okay. It seems like apart from me, only 3 people have covered the Polish election. So, can you guess? Okay, we already covered 2 people. Okay, that have talked about the Polish election apart from me. So yeah, 3 people. There's only person number 4 left. Yes, Dylan Burns covered the election. So I guess we're gonna check that out. My gosh. Ukraine's largest drone attack scare Russian public. Ooh. Damn. The Russian public is scared. Trump is the world kick canning champion. What the Polish election means for Europe. Warsaw, Kiev threat. So I guess this is going to be a Ukraine perspective analysis. Oh, we have the map. We have the map where the division is shown. All right. Oop.
Happened, and the Polish election happened, and as predicted by most pollsters, it was a nail biter. On the night of the election, there was an exit poll that actually had the mayor of Warsaw ahead by about like 0.4 or 0.5%. It was very, very, very slim. Rafal's lead. At that point, he declared victory, and it was like, oh, we won. But that obviously ended up being a little presumptuous.
Premature. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna make the joke. It was a premature declaration of victory, which the moment I heard it, I thought, oh no. Like, there have been so many cases when people have declared victory prematurely and just were screwed over because they did. Like, people should never do it. People should always wait till the end, okay, whatever happens. People should not be like, oh yeah, the initial exit poll tells I'm winning. I won! This is not good, okay? It'll make you look silly if things turn around during the night as they did.
For him to declare victory that early, him and his wife, and by the end of the count, it was clear that the Law and Justice Party and their candidate, Karol, had won. He had won by about 1 percentage point, which amounted to about 300,000 to about 350,000 votes. Now, if you're curious as to how the results ended up looking out, I can show you an electoral map. And it ended
By the way, it is worth noting that apparently, interestingly enough, look at this map, okay? This little map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Trzaskowski won in 10 areas of the 16 areas in Poland. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But, so Trzaskowski technically speaking won in more areas than Nawrocki. But, in those 10 areas, Trzaskowski won just a little bit over 50%. And Nawrocki in those 6 areas won a lot more than 50%. Okay? So Trzaskowski ended up winning less votes in more areas and Nawrocki a lot more votes in a smaller amount of areas in specific regions of Poland. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that a little interesting factoid? Oh my god, 18%.
Up being the divide in Poland that is pretty historical. It's sometimes referred to as Poland A and Poland B. Poland A being the west of Poland, which is seen as more pro-EU, more pro, progressivism, quote unquote, whatever you want to call it. We would say it is the part of the country that would be more sympathetic to the civic coalition of Tusk and of the mayor of Warsaw. And of course, you've got the urban center of Warsaw, which voted largely for the mayor of Warsaw as well, big surprise. And then you've got the East, which is considered more conservative and such. If you're curious upon where these historical lines came from or where these political divides come from, you should probably ask a Polish political scholar instead of me. People point to a few things like the German-Soviet divide.
No, it's not the German-Soviet divide. It's this division is more along the lines of the partitions of the Commonwealth. You know what? Better than Vosh just by the virtue of knowing about Poland A and Poland B, okay? The fact that he knows about this already puts him leagues above Vosh. But the whole divide is, to simplify it greatly, the regions that were roughly under the Prussian sort of partition are gonna vote one way, and the regions that were roughly under the Russian partition will vote one way. There are several reasons why things develop that way. For example, one of them would be that the Prussian partition region was a lot more industrialized and a lot more developed than the Russian partition part. Yeah, sadly. and that sort of ended up continuing. That ended up being a thing into moving forward in history, you know? So, yeah, but the fact that he knows A and B thing is, already, this is turning into a contest between Dylan Burns and Vosh Kociński. And so far, Dylan Burns is winning. I'm not counting that other Polish streamer because, well, he's Polish, okay? I'm doing a ranking of foreign commentators that have been talking about the Polish election, okay? There were more regions in the West voting for Nawrocki than for Duda in comparison, though. The divide is still there, but let's not get crazy. I mean, not really. Like, Trzaskowski won 10 regions. Like, look at the small map. Look at the small orange map. This is how it this is how it ended up. Like, Nawrocki won over Trzaskowski in the 6 blue ones here. So the division is still very much along the east and the west thing.
There were a few different, but I'm not going to get into it. Point is,
I mean, if you're saying that more people voted in the western regions than they voted for Duda, yeah, this is the more detailed map. But yeah, Trzaskowski did win in the 10 regions over Nawrocki. But I suppose what you're saying is that more people in the western regions voted for Nawrocki than they voted for Duda. And yeah, that can be true. That can still be true, but it still doesn't change the fact that more people in those regions voted for Trzaskowski than for Nawrocki. Even if more people voted for Nawrocki than voted for Duda before. Yeah.
the East is considered more, generally speaking, conservative leaning, and the West of the country is considered more pro-EU.
Of course, all of this is also a simplification that is sort of almost necessary, but these are the general trends still.
Liberal leaning, so to speak. Anyway, so the election seemed to match those historical trends, but Carroll was able to squeak out a victory in this nail-biter of an election. He declared victory, rah for law and justice. Now, what does this mean?
And yeah, I don't buy the crap of Nawrocki saying, oh, I'm independent, I'm not of any party. No, I'm sorry, he is a law and justice guy, okay? Let's not pretend that's not the case.
For Poland? And what does this mean?
Yeah, he's been endorsed by Law and Justice, of course. But the whole song and dance of, no, I'm a total independent. I'm totally an independent. Trust me, guys, okay? Nobody does. It's silly. It's really, really silly.
Polish foreign policy. Because I do believe that this is going to have a pretty significant impact on Polish politics, and is, I think, going to, by extension, possibly lead to a significant impact on international European defense politics. Now,
okay, already additional points for the fact that we are 3 minutes in, and so far the only things that I've been hearing about from this video is about the results of the Polish election and nothing else. No talking about, oh my god, who even are these candidates? No talking about, oh my god, what even is the Volhynia massacre? Was it when the Nazis killed them? Oh my god, when Nawrocki speaks about the Volhynia massacre, is it a dog whistle? Is Nawrocki actually a Nazi? No, none of that, thank God, okay? Thank God. Jesus Christ Almighty. No talking about, I mean, we're still just almost 3 minutes in, so maybe that'll change, but so far, no talking about fashion pamphlets and how they're much better than YouTube fashion videos.
How big of an impact that is, it's going to depend on a few factors. But first, let's start with the immediate aftermath impact. So, the immediate aftermath impact was that the Prime Minister of Poland, which is from the opposing, more liberal party, seen as more pro-EU party, and this election seen as more pro-Ukraine party due to the rhetoric from Karol, especially after the first round when he went for Mencen and Bronze votes in the Crown Party and the Confederation Party.
Yeah, and the fact that he actually knows these candidates, okay, that's already also a plus over Vosh, okay? That there's no, oh my God, who even is this Brown guy? Who even is this Mencen guy? Who are these people? Do I have to Wikipedia them, learn what their politics even are?
Get their votes, he had to commit against sending Polish troops to Ukraine, and he had to commit to not allowing...
And very... I give additional points because he knows about the invitation to Mencen's show, and he knows about the 8-point pledge, so also I give prompts. Yeah, I did. Of course I did. It was a very famous thing. I would like to also add that they were drinking at Mencen's pub. Okay? They were drinking at first I thought it was some sort of like a metaphor or something. No, they were literally drinking at his own pub. The Mencen's pub. Very subtle. Okay? At his own establishment. Sławomir Mencen, the real common guy's politician, okay, with his pubs, businesses, and 1 million subscriber YouTube. A real representative of the everyday man.
To join NATO, as well as doubling down on a bunch of I don't know how to call it besides historical trauma.
See, they talk normally. Even Mencen brought beer to Trzaskowski and Sikorski. Yeah, they talked. You know what the funniest thing was for me personally? The funniest bit for me of all those beers and like in the Mencen talks, the funniest thing was when Nawrocki struggled visibly to explain the whole apartment bit, the whole what is it called? Communal apartment, and how he got some money for the guy, and then they agreed that he paid everything, but it sort of was agreed also that he would pay later, and then he got the apartment, and then this, and then that, and Mencen just listened, Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not convinced. It all sounds like bullshit. That to me was the most, to me that was the funniest moment of the whole two conversations that happened on Mencen's channel. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, none of that sounds legit, of what you just said about the apartment. I mean, he was objective in his own way because he also has a lot of pretty stupid beliefs. And also Mencen lied about a bunch of things during those conversations. It's just, let's be clear about that, okay? The activist, the feminist, okay, that he claims faced 3 years in jail for telling an activist, you cannot get pregnant guy, no, there's no facing 3 years of prison, okay? That was a fabrication, that was a lie by Manson. And he said a few more lies like that. He lied about children receiving sex change surgeries en masse. That was also a complete lie. I mean, maybe he had false information but thought he did. I mean, that's, even if that's true, that is still sort of on him. I'm sorry, that's on him for getting the wrong info. Like, if he believes it's true, that's on him for not doing like correct research. He's supposed to be a serious politician now. He's not just a meme or YouTuber, pub owner. He's supposed to be a serious political figure. And so he should be able to do his due diligence and actually fact check all the things that he believes to be true. Because otherwise he's just peddling misinformation. And he's building his policy on that misinformation, which is even more egregious.
And we'll get back to this in a bit. And some of this seems, from an outside perspective, very silly when it comes to, trying to dictate defense policy or moving forward with the Ukrainians. And that's not to say that the tragedies themselves are silly. That's to say that I think it makes for a silly defense policy. And we'll get
Yeah, I think so as well. No one cares about the truth. I mean, I do, but...
to that in a moment. But the most immediate impact after this is the Prime Minister Tusk. He has called for a vote of no confidence.
Well, technically speaking, he has called for a vote of confidence. Because Tusk would not want a vote of no confidence. The vote of no confidence is the opposite of what Donald Tusk wants. He does not want a vote of no confidence. He wants a vote of confidence.
Confidence is that in Poland's parliament, they're going to have the different legislators vote on
But the way he explains it is correct.
whether they're confident in the government of Tusk, or they're going to vote on whether they're not confident. And if they vote that they're confident, well, this will be seen as, a morale victory for the Civic Coalition. This will be a signal to other allies of Poland that the Polish government is strong and is reliable.
By the way, we are 4 minutes 34 seconds in, and Dylan Burns has already said more about the results of the Polish election than Vosh has said through his whole 27 minutes video. I would just like to point that out because the Vosh video really got on my nerves, okay? I was told by him that he had this covered. Vosh told me, nah, I got this, okay? I got this, I learned a lot about this topic, and I've done good coverage. I was like, okay, okay, I trust you. I trust you, Vosh. Yes, I have learned about the breakup between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. A real heartbreaking development. A real heartbreaking divorce. I wonder who's gonna get the kids.
It can react to crisis and such like that, as well as it will show that the
I guess you don't like Musk. No, I don't. He's a very, very silly guy. His Dodge was a disaster. Oh, and also he endorsed AFD, yes.
Polish government coalition can stick together. Now, when I mean the Polish government coalition, the government coalition has been put together by Tusk is not just the Civic Coalition. In order to be able to put together a coalition to move against law and justice, he has had to unite a few parties. He's united both.
He has Asperger's syndrome. I mean, same like Manson. I mean, an Asperger's syndrome is not something that compels you to try to build a fascistic coalition in Europe and to create a horrible, disastrous organization at home that butchers governmental organizations, and there's a lot to talk about. Okay.
With the left.
The most interesting thing that I think Elon Musk has done within Doge is shutting down governmental bodies that investigated Tesla. That's a thing. That's actually a thing that happened. I actually didn't know that Manson had Asperger's syndrome.
And also the third way, which is not a third way, really. It's mostly just like, it's a right-wing party, right? Anyway, all of these parties had one thing in common. They didn't like the Law and Justice Party. They didn't like the fact
I didn't know. I did not know.
They were trying to get more and more control of judicial institutions, which was a big issue for the Civic Coalition and those against law and justice. They didn't like...
Well, the whole court thing was a big problem for the topic of democracy in the country.
Law and justice's control over certain media...
He self-diagnosed. Oh, well. I don't really have a comment on that, to be honest. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Outlets associated with the state, like TVP News, which I've been on a few times. It's a state, Polish state press, basically state TV, and a few other scandals. I don't need to. If you're more interested in.
One of the things that Manson got Trzaskowski to agree on was to get rid of TVP Info. By the way, that is something that both Nawrocki and Trzaskowski agreed on. To get rid of TVP Info. So we're gonna see. I'm actually curious if Nawrocki is gonna push to get rid of TVP Info. He signed the pledge, so technically speaking, he should. We should be seeing the removal of that TV station.
You know, the history of law and justice or stuff like that, you probably go somewhere else. If you're more interested in the positions of the different people of the campaign, we already released a video about that. Oh, and there's also this other thing that they didn't like, and it's not necessarily unified here, but this is something I do want to mention because I have talked to those who are related to the Law and Justice Party in governmental positions, and I've questioned them about this, and it makes them very uncomfortable usually, and so I do want to bring this up.
Victor Orban?
Law and Justice has had a history of backing up Victor
Oh yeah,
Orban.
this is already far better than Vosh. I don't even know if we have to keep watching. The first 6 minutes has beaten Vosh's entire video. I have no clue. Like, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to go back to the Vosh video. I'm trying to think if Vosh actually ended up speaking about the aftermath of the election, like at all at any point, and I'm drawing a blank. I have no clue, and ironically, I have no clue. Like, the only takeaway from the Vosh video is that Nawrocki is not a Nazi. He sort of maybe or maybe not did a dog whistle when he mentioned the Volhynia massacre, and that's it. Krzysztof Bosak, I don't like him. I'm not a big fan of these far-right parties, the Confederacy. Okay, I'm not a big fan. Something fashion pamphlet, something dog whistle. Bosak is better than Manson though. Yeah, that's not a high bar though. Okay. It is not a high bar, I'm afraid.
That is, Viktor Orban would get in trouble with the European Union because he's leading the most corrupt country in the European Union.
I'm really sad, okay? I'm really sad. And I've not really talked about people like Zandberg a lot when covering the elections because, like, he lost and he got a very small amount of percentage, so I just didn't feel like there was a point of even talking about him when covering the election. But the fact that Grzegorz Braun got more percentage than Zandberg, like, this is actually depressing. This is really, really depressing to me. That the guy that actually had very, very concrete proposals as to what to do in economy, healthcare, I believe education as well, housing, he had pretty solid proposals, pretty solid solutions for all of these things. And no, people instead went to the booth and voted for Stop the Ukrainization of Poland, and Yoda is possibly Jewish guy. Very many Poles living in the US voted for Braun. Oh my god, the US Polonia has oh my god. Of course, Polish people in the US would vote for Grzegorz Braun. Housing was crucial for me when voting for Zandberg. Yeah, he was a pretty solid candidate, okay? But he had no chance of winning. But in an ideal world, okay, he would have been either third or fourth, okay? In an ideal world, he would have at least done better than Manson and Braun. Chicago has more Poles than Warsaw. I mean, that happens. Then again, the way the United States counts who is a Polish American is also very finicky, okay? There can be a person that's basically an American and their great-grandfather, great-grandmother was Polish. Therefore, I am a Polish American. I don't think you should be able to vote when you've lived more than a couple of years outside of Poland. No, that's not reasonable. More than a couple of years is not reasonable. Something fashion pamphlet.
Union, and they didn't like the misallocation of those funds, or they didn't like his strong control of the press, or they didn't like any other number of things that he was doing, right? That either
there you go. This is what I like. You go into the segment, you talk about the thing, and you know what you're talking about right off the bat. You don't look baffled on the screen and wonder, wait, this guy who just won the election, what are his politics again? What party does he represent again? What was this election all about again? Okay, I know I'm harping a lot on this, but my level of annoyance has been very, very high over this, okay? I've been very, very, disappointment has been big. People living 20 years, maybe. That's you can have a conversation about that, but a couple of years feels unreasonable. 20 years, maybe. Sandberg is building a position. I think Razem will have a really good result in the parliamentary elections. That would not be so bad. That would actually not be so bad. That could actually be quite good. It used to be that after 20 years you would lose your British vote. Weirdly enough, the Conservatives removed this after promising to scrap it, as they realized many expats are Tory. Yeah. Like, people really quickly decide to scrap such ideas when they realize that the people living abroad can be persuaded to vote for you. So, and people don't want to lose that voter base, so they retreat from such ideas very quickly. They have a lot of work to do. There aren't really known people in Razem outside of Zandberg or Matysiak. I mean, technically speaking, okay, the Law and Justice has built a reputation for quite a few lunatics when it was in charge, but how many politicians do people know out of the civic coalition outside of Tusk, Sikorski, of civic platform, let's just say, like outside of Tusk, Sikorski and Trzaskowski? What are the like super well-known politicians out of the civic platform, really, in the popular consciousness? I think it's funny when people who left Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union will loyally turn out to vote for, yeah. All right, let's continue.
Doesn't abide by EU guidelines or doesn't abide.
I am, however, very happy. Okay, I am very happy to see that my Polish viewers have returned. Okay, I am very happy to see you here. See, it is possible to talk with me. It's not just a debate and condescension and mean words. We can have a normal conversation as well. It's possible. It's very fully possible to talk to me. You jumped out at me on the main. The main? Oh. See, I'm just very recognizable. Yeah. I'm just a very charismatic creator.
I like the rules and the means by which the EU.
But Komorowski and Kopacz don't mean anything anymore, though. Yeah, and Komorowski was basically. This is actually also very interesting, by the way, that the 2025 election has a lot of parallels to the 2015 election. Like a presidential candidate of Law and Justice basically from nowhere beats a candidate that is basically projected to win. Like Komorowski was a lot more projected to win. And there's also the similarity that there was the spoiler candidate. What was the name of that rock guy who was the spoiler candidate in 2015? What was his name? Cookies, I think, yeah? That was him? Like yeah. He earned like 20% of the vote in 2015, and he did something similar to Manson, but instead of inviting people to his show, he said, okay, I will host a debate between, you guys, And he was the spoiler candidate, sort of, that the candidates were fighting for. Just as Manson was the spoiler candidate that the candidates were fighting for now. There are quite a few parallels that I see between 2015 and 2025. And hopefully the parallels will end here, okay? Hopefully it will not lead to... Hołownia was not really a factor. Hołownia was not really such a big factor, but I kind of hope that the Law and Justice will not return, okay? In the parliamentary elections, just like Duda winning was a factor in the Law and Justice party winning in 2015.
Operates. And it would usually be Poland that would come in and save Hungary's voting rights and would basically be one of the second votes to come in and say, hey, we're not going to punish Hungary. Now, after Tusk won,
Hungary and the Law and Justice Poland had each other's back. The cracks between the relationship really started to show when the 2022 invasion started, because Orban called Zelensky his enemy, and the Law and Justice government did not really like it very much. So that caused tension between them. So the relationship between them was not as ideal as it was before that incident.
Was in a kind of precarious position until Fico won in Slovakia. And by winning in Slovakia, this more nationalist, sovereigntist, and Russian-friendly candidate, relative to Europe, of course, Russian-friendly candidate.
He's pretty Russian-friendly. Fico is pretty.
Then Viktor Orban had an out, and that out was possibly Slovakia. But with Law and Justice possibly returning the power of the presidency, and the president of Poland having both veto power and strong power over Poland's foreign policy.
Although I would say that still say that when it comes to relations with foreign countries, I'm actually gonna Google it, not to embarrass myself. Okay. To ma więcej kompetencji w zagranicznych. Prezydent czy minister zagraniczny. Okay, because apart from the president, you still have the minister of foreign affairs.
Maybe it's returning to those old ways where Poland could back up Viktor Orban again. Now, that, if it will really happen in its entirety, will be dependent again on this vote of confidence. Because if the vote of confidence happens, and this stringent this strained coalition that the Prime Minister...
Yeah, I'm liking this coverage so far. I'm liking it more than Vosh's. In Poland, the Prime Minister has the most power. The President can only veto a bill. I mean, also the President can, technically speaking, cause an early parliamentary election to happen, which is a thing that's at his disposal, okay? There are a few instruments via which a president of Poland can cause the shortening of the term of the parliament and an early election. Yeah, but I would say that the shortening of the term of the parliament is a pretty close second to the veto power.
Poland is put together with the left, the right, and the center in order to be against the Law and Justice Party. If it stays together through the no confidence vote, then we're going to have a divided Polish government. And
by the way, if Tusk does not receive the vote of confidence, then the next step in the procedure is Nawrocki would put forward his own candidate for Prime Minister, because at that point Tusk would resign, and if the parliament would not accept this new Prime Minister, then early elections would be called. So there will be a pretty messy scenario, which I don't like and I don't want.
There's a chance that over the next 2 years it's going to be more an administrative
and
state.
Also Tusk is in a very specific situation with the veto, because if the parliament had a necessary majority, then technically speaking, it could overrule the veto, the veto, presidential veto. But this particular coalition does not have such a majority, so it cannot. It cannot overrule the presidential veto. It is worth remembering.
Where they're not doing a lot of reforms when it comes to, say, the restrictive abortion laws in Poland that doesn't allow you to abort even in cases where the fetus will be born and won't be able to live and it will just suffer, or any of the other domestic reforms that they wanted to do, they won't be able to do that because the president has veto power. But also, of course, the president has a significant amount of influence over foreign policy, which right now is quite important. And so that's the first outcome. Now, the second outcome, and this is the outcome that I think concerns me quite a bit more, is that, let's say Tusk fails his no confidence vote.
Yeah, that would be no good. That would not be a good outcome. If the third way decided, well, we don't like you anymore, Donald, or then you left.
And the left breaks with him, that would be very dumb, but the left breaks with him, or third way breaks
I mean, even in Poland, the president has sort of certain instruments that would allow him to, technically speaking, dissolve the parliament. And one of these instruments is tied to the budget.
With him, or for whatever reason, he doesn't have enough votes in the parliament to, stay.
Like if the president can sort of obstruct to put it in a simplistic manner, obstruct the budget, and there you go. There's a lot of discussion around the fact that because keep in mind, after 1989, the president in Poland did have more competences, but those were reduced. You can look into it. You can look into the fact that right after 1989, the president in Poland had more power than now, but that power was removed. Some speculate that it was to curb the power of the first president, Lech Wałęsa. See, I'm giving you very interesting trivia about the Polish politics.
What's going to happen is that the Law and Justice Party will be allowed to put forward a candidate, and they'll see if they can get a vote of confidence to be sworn in as prime minister. And that means the election for president.
But of course, the parliament would have to still accept that candidate put forward by the new president. And if not, new parliamentary elections. There you go. Thank you.
Then gets the Law and Justice Party a prime minister as well, and now they control both the prime ministership and the presidency. They control, they have the control now of that executive branch of Polish government. Now, that's unlikely. It's unlikely that they would immediately be able to pass that no confidence vote. And so what would be a lot more likely is that after that fails, snap elections would be called. And
right, yeah, there you go, early elections.
Then we would see what comes from that. Now, I don't want to tell you exactly how those snap elections can go after seeing the Liberals in Canada turn around and literally dig themselves out of the political grave and then deliver a victory for the Liberals. That tells
political grave.
Me that you're never really politically dead. But of course, you're a victim of circumstance. And Trump was an interesting circumstance. I don't know if they're going to have that version of it. But this would be...
I was a victim of circumstance, a Valkyrie profile quote.
Of concern to the Civic Coalition and to those who are not friendly to law and justice due to the fact that we just had an election.
What a fresh... Okay, I'm not... Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop complaining about the video that I've been watching before, okay? I'll stop. But why couldn't Vosh do this, okay? Let me check something, okay? Let me check if I'm gonna be angry, okay? I have a question. Without looking it up, guess how many views this video has, okay? Incub, John the Brazen, Malaki, Criso, Konrad, Estelle, and Narkael, of course. Try guessing how many views does this video have? 10K? Okay, that's good, I guess. That is as good a guess as any. 11 views or 11K? 2K. Okay. I said without looking it up, by the way. Cookie? 10 trillion? No, I mean, how many views does the video that I'm watching have? I'm moving toward a point, okay? I'm making a point. I'm building a point, okay? I'm building up to a point. How many people watched this video, do you think? I'm asking you to guess, okay? I'm not asking if you know. I'm asking you to guess. Give me an estimate. I'd say 15K. Okay. 500 people. Okay, I'm just gonna check, okay? You gave some guesses, 10K, 15K, 2K, 500. Okay, we're gonna check. We're gonna scroll down. 3,298 people watched this since 15 hours ago. Okay? Yeah, you weren't that much off. Vosh, who did a non-analysis of the process, received 41,000 views on the video. Vosh's video, when he basically said nothing, he talked about fashion, he talked about God knows what, he didn't know who the candidates were, he didn't know about the Volhynia massacre. 41,000 views. This person does a complete analysis with information packed, no second wasted, knows who the candidates are, knows their program. 3,000, a little bit over 3,000 views. That's kind of why people watch Vosh, though. It's popcorn content. I don't think he would have as many views if he went in depth, sadly. That just makes me sad. Okay, that makes me deeply, deeply sad. Depressed. Oh gosh. How many people do we have here in the 11? You know what? Just please, I beg. Please, I beg, do me a favor and go. Okay, go watch this later or something. This just sad. Okay, I cannot believe this is happening. Okay, this is the saddest development ever. Okay. If I account for 100 people, that's good. That's good. You're gonna give that video 100 additional views then. Thank you. Like, is this really the state of things? Okay, is this really the state of things?
Poland and Law and Justice won by a percentage point. So if you immediately call a snap election after, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win?
I'm gonna win.
Now, it's gonna be difficult in that situation, I assume, for them to turn it around. Maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. But here's the risk. Not only Law and Justice getting the presidency, but here's the bigger risk. Because while Law and Justice, we're going to get into it in a moment, while Law and Justice doesn't have a perfect record on Ukraine,
it's
not like they're literally destroy Ukraine. They're not like republishing Russian propaganda. If anything, they at least they are not friendly with the Russians enough that they have to like tolerate the fact that Ukraine is strategically of import to them, right? That it's Ukraine then them, you know. Now here's the bigger risk. If they have another snap election, it's not just about Law and Justice getting a bunch more seats in Poland's parliament. It's not just about that. It's not just about like who wins the prime ministership. The big thing that would worry me is if Confederation which is the more right-wing, I would say anti-Ukraine party, or Crown, the Crown, which is Grzegorz Braun party, which is as far right as...
Grzegorz Braun is just a crazy guy, okay? Grzegorz Braun is... well, he is a Star Wars connoisseur. He's a Star Wars specialist. We have watched his analysis of Star Wars. Oh, he was asked again, by the way. There's a YouTube short in which he is asked once again about whether or not Yoda is Jewish, and he's asked once again to finally give a definitive answer to that question. And once again, unfortunately, we do not get to know what Grzegorz Braun's opinion on the matter is. Yeah, I know. I know that used to be the director.
You can really get on the spectrum, and as anti-Ukraine as you can
That's
physically
okay.
imagine. I mean, this is a guy who tackled a Christmas tree because it had Ukrainian ornaments on it. This is a guy who doesn't want to see...
It doesn't change the fact that he's a lunatic. I'm sorry. He may be doing a lot of acting, but tackling a Christmas tree because it has Ukrainian decorations is a bit much, okay?
A single bit of military gear go from Poland into Ukraine. This is somebody who wants to see the Ukrainians subjugate themselves to the Russians, give some form of surrender to bring about peace. And his way to bring about peace...
Also, he wants a complete stop to the aid for Ukraine, which is just said here in the video, which to me is absolute stupidity.
The subjugation of the invaded, not the retraction of the invader. And in these snap elections, if these parties perform well enough, then law and justice may be put in a position where they have to talk about going into a coalition government with the Confederation. The Crown, less likely, but Confederation, more likely.
I don't know. I see, basically, be quite honest with you, I see Grzegorz Braun as same type as Janusz Korwin-Mikke.
And if they have to go into a coalition with a party where their candidate, Menson, asked them on his podcast, which he asked them to come on for his endorsement, and they said, look, I need you to say you're not going to send...
Also, yeah, of course a lot of people buy his crap. He won 6% of the vote in the election, which is far more than he should have gotten. He should not have gotten 6%. That should not have been a thing, ever. My God.
Send any troops to Ukraine. I need you to declare against NATO membership and stuff like that. Look, there's already a concern on whether or not Carroll is going to deliver on that promise of Ukraine's not going to be in NATO. I think the troops thing he'll probably deliver on, but whether or not he's going to keep that position of Ukraine cannot join NATO because he thinks it's politically convenient now that Trump has that position as well.
Andrzej Duda, by the way, already has expressed officially a hope that Nawrocki will change his mind when it comes to Ukraine and NATO, so that's a thing that happened.
Therefore, again, further weakening leverage of the negotiating table, giving stuff up to the Russians before you even engage in conversations with them, making the same mistake that the United States government made, we're now watching the Europeans make. That, of course, is of concern. But again, the thing that scares me is if Confederation gets in there, they can start influencing the Polish government to start sending less aid. They can start influencing the Polish government on EU votes that affect Russia, or that affect, for example, businesses where Russia's operating in Europe and X, Y, Z. If Confederation get a significant amount of the vote in a snap election to enter a coalition government, then we could see a real shift, not only against the European Union from inside the Polish government, that is now going to have to placate...
Also against Ukraine, yeah.
Federation. But we could now see the Polish government
Yeah, I know, Konrad. I know. It baffles the mind. I know. No, I have not seen it. We can link it in the page. I know. Like, this is just... Yeah, and he still won 6% when he just talked about the Euro kolkhoz and Jewish people. Yeah, I'm doing... Hello, Obsessive Forge. I'm doing a little bit of a... how do you call it? I'm doing... Jesus, what's the English word? I'm blanking out. I'm doing a ranking of the coverage of the Polish election by content creators. And I'm sorry to say that apart from me and one other Polish political creator, only 2 people have covered these elections, and that was Vosh and Dylan Burns here. And oh my god, the Vosh one. The Vosh one was so bad. It was so bad that no, the traditionalist did not really count. Okay, the traditionalist that does not count. The traditionalist is Polish. And I said I'm doing a ranking of foreign content creators that covered the Polish election. So unfortunately, the traditionalist does not make the cut because the traditionalist is in fact Polish. If he wasn't, then maybe I would have watched some of this coverage. To be honest, that doesn't surprise me. Like, I hate to go back to that again, but if you're gonna jump into a topic, okay, if you're gonna title your video the results are in, we have the results of the Polish election, and then Vosh opens it with, okay, so who even are the candidates? What are their politics? What are their beliefs? Let me look it up. Oh, the Polish candidate is for looking into the Volhynian massacre. Is that a dog whistle? Is he a Nazi? Like, come on. I hereby pay my Lucy tax. Thank you, Fake Cal Parker, for the $15. Thank you very much. Like, it's shockingly bad. It's not just bad, it is shockingly bad. It is...
They're cutting its support for Ukraine even more. Now look, we don't even know if there's going to be a snap election. If Donald Tusk can pull out that confidence vote with a W and walk away with it, then up until the elections that I think are supposed to happen towards the end of 2026, everything will basically continue as an administrative state, where they're going to administer the state.
Well, it could still happen that, okay. The president still could not allow the budget to be put forward for 2026, and the president could still push for an early election, parliamentary election, if the vote of no confidence fails. So there's like, let me just say that the currently ruling coalition is in a pretty difficult situation. Let me just say that.
But they're not going to be doing any big reforms, because any reforms to abortion law or any reforms to, the judicial system or any reforms to X, Y, and Z is going to immediately be vetoed because the president has veto power. But that's still very different than a radical anti-EU and possibly anti-Ukraine shift.
Yeah, I'm not sure one can turn to Vosh for in-depth coverage of foreign elections. I mean, again, Vosh's analysis of the election results got 41,000 views. This got 3,318 views. I'm not even gonna be petty, okay? I'm not even gonna go into how many views my coverage of the election gets, okay? I think I've translated from Polish to English 2 debates, both Manson talks, and a few other things, okay? I've been covering the election pretty in depth.
From a coalition government made up by a both conservative party that has questions of its erosion of democracy and its democratic tendencies, combined with a party that is explicitly anti-Ukraine, Menson's party. So this is the difficult position.
Not to mention Grzegorz Braun's party, but that's neither here nor there.
That Poland finds itself in as the prime minister tries to call for a confidence vote. And I have been wondering about this election and what could have affected the outcome. And I don't want to get, I talked about a few things on the last stream talking about the Polish election. So I just want to comment on one thing that I forgot to mention last time that I do think is of enough significance that I should have mentioned.
Oh yeah, I don't think Vosh even got to that. I'm pretty sure like in his analysis, Vosh didn't even register that the United States have meddled in the Polish elections directly.
I mentioned that there was Trump officials, Trump administration officials, specifically Kristi Noem, Kristi 1, Dog 0, who was sent.
Jesus Christ almighty. Yeah, meddled. I'm sorry, if the United States says, listen, this guy needs to win. If he doesn't win, we will pull troops out of this country. Then I'm sorry, yeah, meddled, Jack, don't do it. Yeah, meddled, that's the word. That's the word that we should use. It's election meddling, yes. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what word you would use, but that is the word that I would use. Oh, Maciak. Oh, fuck me, Maciak. If you don't want to check, I'll tell you. Stanowski asked Maciek if he seriously respects Putin, and Maciek said he does. Stanowski left the studio right away and left him alone in the studio. Like, Jesus Christ. Do you remember when during a debate, who was that YouTuber that just ran in the election for the memes? That he was gathering money for a child that had a serious illness, I think to treat him in the US, and Maciek was like, well, if Putin treats the kid for free, will you endorse him? And yeah, and he's like, yeah, I know that in your head Putin is like this amazing guy who saves everybody, who is charitable to everybody, but I have a little bit of a different view on these matters. That was funny. That was an entertaining moment in the debate, I will admit. So, yeah, and yes, the United States absolutely meddled. Also, I find it, the Homeland Security Chief of the United States decided to shoot her puppy, 14 months old, because untrainable, I guess. I guess I should just shoot Fido, untrainable. Like, he misbehaves so much, he bites so many things. I guess it's time to take him out back or something, I don't know. I do have to take him to the vet. Yeah. That is why he said in this video that she 1 point to her and 0 points to dog because she shot her dog. That's like her popularity apparently plummeted when she said that she just shot her dog because untrainable. I must take Fido to the vet though. I must take him to the veterinarian because he's been recently acting like he's trying to cough up something, but he can't, and he makes these weird... I don't know, I have to take him to the vet. I have to take him to a checkup. I'm worried. I am alarmed. Not so. I think he heard me. I heard him sigh loudly. That's so sad and I know. That's the US Homeland Security chief, though.
Here, to endorse Carol. Endorsed Carol, endorsed the Law and Justice Party.
Yeah, that is the logical go-to when you cannot handle your dog misbehaving. You shoot your dog, of course. That's not psychotic at all. Not in the slightest, of course.
Said he was fighting against the communist, socialist, whatever other candidate. Ridiculous saying that in Polish politics, by the way. But something I did not mention, because it wasn't in the clip that I showed you guys, is in that same push...
Trzaskowski, the commie.
...push to get Poles to vote for Carol, she ended up saying that if Carol didn't win, then maybe the United States would have to reassess this deployment of military forces in Poland. As if telling the Polish public, either vote the way we want, or maybe we won't come to your aid.
Yeah, that's totally not meddling. It's totally not meddling, Jack. Don't do it. Yeah, the meddled, right? It's totally not. And the funny thing is that before that, the United States have warned the European Union not to meddle in the Polish elections.
Now, do I think that's what decided the election? I don't want to give anybody an out for that and just say that.
Yeah, she said exactly that, actually.
Decided it, because there was many, many, many factors that decided it. But I will say that that's very strange, and I would say vile, coming from the same government that was telling the European Union not to get involved in the Polish election immediately after having Kristi Noem declare this. So they declared their side in the election, then turned to the EU and say, don't take sides. Don't take sides. So what is one of the immediate effects, though, putting aside the snap election, putting aside, because, you know, if this confidence vote succeeds, then we don't even need to go down this pathway. So where are we now? Where are we now?
Where are we?
Let me say that
Why does she shoot you?
President Zelensky met with Duda, who is the current president of Poland.
As I said before, by the way, Duda already basically said in the official capacity that he hopes that Nawrocki will change his mind about Ukraine being in NATO. He did say that already.
Law and Justice Party candidate, Law and Justice Party member, but he is considered more pro-Ukraine. When I say pro-Ukraine, that's not to say he's perfectly pro-Ukraine. He's had his moments, but in comparison to the government that just got elected and the promises they made, Duda believes that Ukraine should be in NATO. The incoming president declared that they should not be in NATO. And once you go down from that one...
Actually, Nawrocki went further. Nawrocki also said that Ukraine should not be in the European Union. I think that's always worth mentioning. That Nawrocki didn't just say that he doesn't want Ukraine in NATO. He also talked about the European Union. Duda might have pretty big influence on the current president behind the scenes. Well, hopefully. I actually unironically hope he does, because Duda was better on Ukraine than Nawrocki.
You can find a few other discrepancies on Duda's side that put him more in the...
Poland also has quite a lot of problems with corruption, especially under Law and Justice it had.
Pro-Ukraine camp. So Zelensky's met with Duda to discuss bilateral relations, diplomatic efforts, and there's a real possibility that Duda might go to the incoming president and say, look, politics is politics. He said this on the campaign trail. He said that on the campaign trail. Ukraine's, security is connected to our security. Maybe that will have some amount of an impact But Zelensky also tweeted out at Carol.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the toilet real quick. I'll be right back, okay? This is leagues above what Vosh has presented to us.